Hey, how's it going? Today we're going to play some games with the new Conkeldurr. Conkeldurr is a 180 HP Stage 2 fighting type Pokemon with an attack that does 250 damage for free as long as we're affected by a special condition. That's kind of crazy. I mean, the original cost is fighting triple colorless, but we're never going to use the actual attack cost because we're going to be self-poisoning with Brute Bonnet that has the ability, if it has a Ancient Booster Capsule attached to it, we can poison both Pokemon once during our turn. We're going to also combo that with Radiant Sneasler so that poison does 3 damage counters in between turns. And between that and a Defiance Band or Maximum Belt, Conkeldurr is going to be hitting 330 or 310 with a Defiance Band. You can also get Grant involved that says your fighting type Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active. And it also lets us retrieve it from the discard pile. We just have to discard 2 cards from our hand. With that and a Defiance Band, we can do 340. And since Conk is a stage 2, we're going to pair that with Klawf to have a basic attacker. For double colorless, Klawf does 30 damage plus 160 more damage if we are affected by a special condition. So that also goes well with the Brute Bonnet. And we're going to attack with double turbo, so it's not going to do 190, it's going to do 170. And I opted for the Pidgeot, Rotom, Forest Steelstone, Arven package just to make the deck a little more consistent at the price of having 2 prize Pokemon in play, which, I don't know, sometimes you want to keep the deck all 1 prize, but a deck like this that's so wombo combo, I wanted to make it as consistent as I possibly could. I have been working on this deck since the new set came out, and I originally had Hisuian Arcanine in the deck, and that wasn't consistent enough, and then I saw LDF's video where he paired it with Klawf, and I was like, oh man, how did I not think of putting Klawf in there with it? So I thought that was the perfect combo with it. That's the deck, and let's get into the games. Alright, so I was choosing to go first with this deck. I tried to put as much ball search in it as possible, so first is a pretty good choice because you get to evolve. You could also like high roll going second, but you're probably not getting an attack with Klawf turn 1 just because of the lack of switching options. Alright, the hand's a little bit awkward here. I'm just like checking my prizes, making sure I can Ultra Ball away like the Gurdurr and stuff and still be able to get it back. Because I want to either get another Timburr down or like a Pidgey. And I Ultra Ball that away. Yeah, and I go for the Pidgey. I was thinking about getting Rotom too. I don't know, Rotom might have been a better choice, but I really just want to establish my board. In a matchup like this where they're always going to be having 2 prizers in the active, I really just need to attack by the time they have like 3 prizes left. Since we're going to put a couple 2 prizers in play, we need to attack when they have 4 prizes left, but that's still 1 more turn that we can take off after this. And I could have kept the Arven as well, but I couldn't get Rotom and a Pidgey, and I would have kept the Arven if I could do that, because I could get Rare Candy and Forest Steelstone. But I don't know why this happens sometimes with my recordings, but it like will just kind of freeze the game for a minute. They put down a bunch of the Ogerpons, as you can see, and played Asada and then knocked me out, but it just showed them doing nothing the whole time and only played the sound effects. I gotta figure out what's going on with that. I think it might have something to do when I like click on my second screen, maybe? I don't know, I'm not sure, but we get a fine enough hand off of the Iono, and I'm just debating counter catching to make their life a little bit more difficult. I don't know. Maybe that wasn't the best option, but I just don't want them to boss my Pidgey is what I'm thinking, so they'll need a retreat and a boss instead of just a boss. And they're going to have what I want to knock out in the active anyway. Between the tool cards, we can always one-shot this Raging Bolt, even if it's got a charm on it. And this is kind of like the weakness of the Raging Bolt deck. There's not too many 1-prizers in the format it has to worry about right now, but a deck like this really is going to exploit the fact that it's only got 2 prizers. And they prime catcher up my Pidgey, which is unfortunate, but you know, what can you do? At least it's, I'd rather them knock out my Rotom, I think. That would put a lot of pressure on and maybe even force it so I couldn't evolve into the Pidgey. So in hindsight, like maybe that would have been the right choice for them. So I'm just going to Capturing Aroma, grab a Klawf to try and... I'm thinking that I can knock out their squawkability at some point with my Klawf. So I grab that, and I get just absolutely nothing. Kind of unfortunate. I grab another Pidgey and Rotom. Yeah, this is not really drawing the best. I'm like looking, seeing if there's some, like thinking about attaching the Defiance Band, but the chances of them Ionoing me are pretty slim, I think, at least. And now they're probably gonna try to knock out my Rotom. If they do that, it kind of wins them the game. And this is just kind of an unfortunate matchup. I'm pretty sure I prized like 3 Arven or something crazy like that this game. And if I just got one at any point, I would have been pretty much good to go. But luckily they leave my Rotom alive, because I wouldn't have been able to do anything if they killed it, because I'm relying on Forest right now. Rare Candy. Yeah, I think I saw it when I scrolled past. This is the game. I prized like 3 Arven and an Iono, which is just kind of crazy. Yeah, there's no Arven in my deck and only 1 Iono, and I Ultra Balled away an Arven. I did notice that on my first deck search, but I just had no better Ultra Ball targets, and I figured that I would Iono into like some combination of Rare Candy and Conkeldurr or Rare Candy Pidgeot sooner. But I use the Defiance Band because that's only going to be active until I'm ahead on prizes, whereas Max Belt is always going to let me do 300. And I could also combine it with Klawf to knock out a Ogre Palm. They just send up another Raging Bull. I'm pretty sure they have another energy in their hand. And if they choose to just knock out my Pidgeot, I'm just gonna, or my Rotom, I'm just gonna be able to promote my conk and knock out the active and hope that they can't do anything about it, because their hand's really low. They're trick and choosing a couple times, but they have no other Raging Bull in play. They really need to set something up. Conkeldurr's not weak to grass, it's weak to psychic. So I think this gives us kind of fair odds at winning the game, like especially if we top deck an Iono, which is really low odds. But if we did, that'd be, I think we'd win for sure. I don't think they're converting a 1-card hand into a knockout, a new Raging Bolt and a knockout, but we don't top deck it, so I'm just debating benching the Klawf. I'm just kind of overthinking this. All I really need to do is poison and attack. I could bench another Brute Bonnet, but if they knock anything out, no, I shouldn't do that. If they knock anything out, I lose. I'm just like, I have a double turbo, I might as well bench that guy. I grab a Rare Candy in preparation for next turn, which also doesn't matter. Maybe they boss up my Gurdurr and I have no way to retreat it. I get an Arven and Iono, getting all my supporters out of the prizes. I got all 3 Arvens out of it in the last 2 turns. And now we just got to see if they have it. They need 3. They need a Sada, a hand attachment, and a grass for this Ogre Pond. They Vessel. They're out of grass energy. That seems like we're in a pretty good spot, and they concede. That's awesome. That just really shows the weaknesses of having an only 2 prize deck when there's good 1 prizers like this in the format. Alright, this is a game of when I still had a Bidoof in the deck. Or I might have not even had Pidgeot in the deck at this point, but I thought this game was kind of interesting and kind of showed the like poison max belt combos like I wanted to. So, and I also had this other supporter in there that says if your opponent's active Pokemon is poisoned, you can shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 7 cards. I don't know. It didn't end up being very good. I like tried to go out of my way to use it in this game and play kind of bad. My opponent doesn't play the best either, so I kind of thought this was like a good learning kind of game, as I made a bunch of mistakes, my opponent made some mistakes. So they get a pretty good setup. They get their Forest Seal Stone. They attach to the active, which is interesting, but I guess they're just assuming that I can't attack. Maybe, I don't think a lot of people know what the Conkeldurr does. I don't know how many people were excited for it to come out like I was. And I could just grab a Barrel since I only have double turbos to retreat anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. If it, well, that the Bidoof has 2 retreats, so even if it was the 1 retreat one, it wouldn't make a difference. And I Iono into a complete brick. So I'm kind of forced to get a Rotom with this Nest Ball because this is Charizard. Like, they're probably going to knock out my Bibarel. And I need to draw cards so that I don't just have nothing for next turn. I can't really just rely on the top deck. I'm thinking if I should retreat into anything, but I don't think I can. Looked like I was going to top deck Arven anyway, but you can't really risk that. The Capturing Aroma in Charizard, that's interesting. This is like an Arceus League player, or yeah, Arceus League player. Capturing Aromas in Zard. That's special. I don't know if Zard really has like that much extra room. I don't know, maybe it does. No, I don't think it does. Because people were cutting down low on Buddy Poffins in the deck. And they go down to a 0-card hand. So they also have the Armarouge GX. I would guess. I don't think that they would have the other Armarouge in here. I don't know how much sense it would make. Because you can put your energy wherever you want them anyway. And when you're like going back to the bench, you're usually retreating the energy off. But the Armarouge GX says it takes 80 less damage if it has no damage counters on it. And I have a Wombo combo here. I can Arven for Nest Ball and get Radiant Sneasler and then max belt my Conkeldurr and knock out this Charizard in one shot. This is kind of one of the main reasons I wanted to use this game. There's no Nest Balls in the deck, unfortunately. And I just make sure that my other Brute Bonnet's not prized. I would have actually liked it to be prized here so I could just grab Heavy Ball. But, so I have to Ultra Ball for Brute Bonnet. Or no, not Brute Bonnet. Radiant Sneasler. And Forest Seal Stone for either another Timburr or Artazon. I'm probably going to get... And I almost grabbed the wrong Pokemon there. That would have been terrible. But I think I'm going to get Artazon so that I have a chance of it sticking in play. And I can finish setting up my board over the next couple turns. Because this hand kind of sucks. And as long as my Brute Bonnet lives, I should be able to play this supporter next turn. But you'll see why it kind of sucks. And I one-shot the Charizard, which is so cool. They probably didn't expect that to happen, but Conkeldurr's a beast. And I prized 2 Arven this game too. I don't know what is up with this deck and the weird prizes. The second game I played with this, I had no Heavy Ball in it, and I prized both of my Brute Bonnets, and I was like, oh, I should probably add a Heavy Ball because I have like the one of Rotom, the run of Sneasler, and there's enough Pokemon where one of them there's a good chance that one of the basics is prized, and then Heavy Ball is just like another out to a basic. And of course, with the Brute Bonnet being so needed for the strategy. And they're just thinning out their hand, it looks like. And they boss. And he should have stayed in the Pidgeot, like with the Pidgeot in the active, before drawing with Mew. But also, this is like one of the downsides to like, you see your opponent's utility Pokemon and think, I need to knock that out. They're less likely to get an attack off. But I have a bunch of Arvens left, and you're leaving my Max Belt in play. So that's like went from me probably losing this game almost every time to basically just winning on the spot because I can just grab another booster capsule. I play a bunch of those. Max Belt, I'm not going to be able to recover unless I play Roseanne's backup, which I don't. And now I can just grab Ultra Ball, get out another Conkeldurr, and I'm still going to knock them out. So that is one of those things you got to watch out for. Like, Gardevoir was really famous for this in the last format, where people would think, oh, I can knock out the Gardevoir EX. I take 2 prizes and get their EX out of play. But you would leave an Arcana in play with 9 energy on it, and then anything's getting one shot, and I'm not going to put another 2-prizer in play. So sometimes you need to identify that the threat in the active is more pressing than their support Pokemon being on the bench. And I also make a mistake there of keeping the, whatever that supporter is, I can't read it. Artemis, I think, Articus or something like that. The poison supporter that lets me draw 7. So if they knock out my Brute Bonnet, I can't do anything. I need to like hope that I top deck a Ancient Booster Capsule. I do have a couple free turns because I only have 1 2-prizer in play. But they left. So that's like the main thing I wanted to talk about, was identifying when the threat in the active is more pressing than a support Pokemon. Like, the support Pokemons are going to be replaced. In this case, like, yeah, if I couldn't get another one, I couldn't attack, but I have pretty good odds to get it, and you should just take out the Max Belt, identifying that I need a crazy combo to one-shot you when I don't have access to the Max Belt. And then I should have just Ultra Balled away the Articus and kept the Arven. Arven's going to get me whatever I need on the next turn. I don't need to like worry about getting all cute with a supporter that draws me extra cards. And I would have top decked the booster capsule anyway, which is kind of lucky. And I went to play that just to like get the satisfaction of playing it, but I couldn't because their active wasn't poison, and I didn't want to BM. It seemed like they kind of left the computer anyway. But yeah, that is Conkeldurr. I don't know if it's will ever be a meta deck, just because of the stall matchup, which is why I originally had it built the way that I had it built with the jet energies. But with Lugia being such a force right now, I think stall is going to be playing Temple of Sinnohs anyway, and you really need to play Turos to get out of the active, either Turo or Penny, because they can just eerie the switches out of your hand, Misfortune Sister the switches out of your deck. It's kind of unfortunate. So that might hold this deck back, and it's a little bit clunky, but once you get going, it just kind of like runs through like anything that your opponent can put in front of it. It's a pretty powerful 1-prizer with a bit of HP. You're poisoning yourself, so you go down to 160, which isn't the best. If you could exploit the whole 180 HP, that'd be really cool, but I couldn't think of any way to affect myself with a special condition as consistently without using Brute Bonnet. Yeah, so probably like a tier 3, like low tier 2, high tier 3 deck. Maybe it'll get more consistent. I played around with a bunch of builds of it, and the Pidgeot was the best build for me. Like, I got a few other games where I won with it like pretty handily, but it was like too handily. I don't want to show like just a complete blowout of a game that's really boring to watch. And I'll admit the Charizard game wasn't the best game, but it had the thing where they bossed my Brute Bonnet, and I wanted to point that out because I see a lot of people kind of mess that up when they're like, oh, I can knock out their support Pokemon, and that's a better play than knocking out their threat. But sometimes it isn't. Like, a lot of the time it isn't. It all depends. It's very situational, and it can be kind of hard to identify when it's correct and when it's not, but it's really situational. A lot of the time it's kind of an odds thing. You like check the discard pile, see what are the chances that my opponent is able to get another Brute Bonnet out. If you see, 2 ancient capsules in the discard, and I have one on the Brute Bonnet and another Brute Bonnet in the discard, and there's no Artazon in play, then yeah, you could be like, oh, there's pretty good odds they're not going to be able to get all the different combo pieces to super odd and find their last ancient booster capsule. But in that situation, I had no booster capsules in my discard pile and no Brute Bonnets, and there was an Artazon in play. So if I just had one in my hand, or any Arven, there was only one Arven down, you just get the A-Spec, get the Max Belt out of play, remove that threat, and then maybe worry about the Brute Bonnet off of an Iono with a counter catcher or something like that. But hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good one.